Hello, my name is Noah, and I'll be going over my portions of the weather app that I worked on with Raymond. We actually have our portions a little bit separate, so I don't have his on here, but I can still go over the parts of the code that I worked on. So starting with, I believe, changing, well, I kept the ability to change between three statically assigned cities from, I think it was like one of the challenges that we did in class. So if I reboot this and then if I tap button A, we actually just have the screen change. So I can show up, I can swap between the three cities here. So I currently have Riverside and then this really long one that's in like, I think Ireland somewhere. This is just to show the smart screen wrapping. So this is actually, I can show it in the code. It's way down at the bottom. Here it is. Okay, so here is how I do the screen wrapping. So we get the name of the string just pulled out of, I have it up here somewhere. This is just pulled off of the primary part of the object. This is set to just some basic padding, sets to the text color, and then starting position for the cursor. We then just populate a loop essentially to try and print everything character by character. Then it just goes up to whatever I set the maximum character length to be. We then just print a dash, go to the next line, and then continue the rest of this video game. So I think this actually would work for like a crazy, crazy, crazy long name. It would just like overflow onto the bottom here, but it works. And that will smart wrap. But like I said, like I was saying, I can swap between three cities. So these are just statically assigned. Those are up here. So I just have these be very basic. This is like an initial thing that I did just kind of for fun and been playing with it. From there, we can do between Fahrenheit and Celsius, and that does stay between all the different cities, and I can swap between all of them here, swap, swap, and go to where this is in Ireland, I think. Swap, swap. So that one works. You went to her side. Why? Go to that one there. So that changes the same. And then let me see. That is handled here, I believe. So we just set, if it's Celsius, we just modify these. For Fahrenheit to Celsius is Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5/9, and then that converts to Celsius. And then that gets printed down here, and I use a inline Boolean check. There's a better word for that. Ternary. I use a ternary operator to, if we have U Celsius, then it changes the F to a C just for that screen. So that's how we change from those two. And then for the timestamp, that's done pretty similarly. I have that. I think it's on the bottom of this portion. Da, da, da. Yes, so this uses date buff, which this uses this one, date buff populated from here. So there actually is a timestamp that is included in the calls to open weather. Let me try and find that. So I believe that is part of time zone and ID, I'm pretty sure. So these get parsed out just to compose a timestamp, and then I just break those out into individual buffers for time and date. So the timeline on the bottom and then the date on the top are actually composed separately, but they are printed together. So those get composed, and then they are printed down here. So this kicks it over to the bottom right corner just to keep it out of the way. I had it over here initially, but I think I like how it looks over on the corner here. So this just prints everything out. We get the first line just to say, hey, a last update, and then the line for the date, and then one for the time. And I believe that should be everything. Let me check. Yeah, that was everything. So I'll go ahead and call it there for my portion and hand it over to Raymond. Thanks.
So this is my portion of the Uber project. I added the zip code, so I added the new global variable for screen mode tracking, int screen mode 0. I added the zip code digit array as well to help build it, which is going to be zip code digit array is right here. So we have the zip code digit array that you could change. So the default is for Riverside 92504. Then I added a touch debounce for when you're on the screen. So the touchscreen fires rapidly while your fingers held down, so without the debouncing, a single tap would register as 5 to press and skip through multiple digits. So this will force a 300 millisecond cooldown between touch registrations. Then I have the zip layout constants, which I added as well here. And so these define the pixel positions and size of a zip code UI, having them as constants make it easy to tweak the layout. And they're reusable. Draw zip code screen and handle zip code touch, so the button hit zones match exactly what's drawn on the screen. So then I modified the loop screen navigation. So because button C is the hardware button, so on the weather screen, pressing it sets to screen mode 1 and draws zip editor. On the zip editor, pressing it sets to 0 and fetches the weather for a zip code you entered, so it'll take you to another screen. And then I added the build zip string, which is a helper function. It converts the zip digits array 92504 into string 92504 when you're looking at the edits. And then we get the response by zip. So this is the key change from the original. So using q equals city name in the API URL, it uses zip equals 92504 US. The format is zip code, brackets, zip code, in brackets, comma, brackets, country code, brackets. So the code is hard coded to the US as assignment allows. If those request fails, it shows a red error screen instead of leaving the display. And then the draw zip codes UI is here, and what does that do? So this draws the 10 touch buttons, 5 up arrows, 5 down arrows with the 5 digits displayed between them. Green triangles at the top to add increment white boxes with the current digit in the middle. Red triangles at the bottom, tap to decrease. A yellow label at the bottom of the user project. User to press button C to go back. Handles zip code touches, handles the processing of it. Here's the zip code touches. So from the M5Core2 Touch API, it gets the XY coordinates from the touch, then loops them through each of the 5-digit columns to see if the touch falls within that column. Then it catches if the Y coordinate is in the up or down arrow zone. The math digit +1, percentage 10 wraps 9 through 0 on increment, and digit plus dot wrap 0 plus dot decrement. Then my fixes was ensure the backlight's on. Edit the text sizes. I swapped the city's manual to return response and error screens in the draw weather and get responses by zip. So that is it.